Hi everyone, welcome to Aggror's devlog. And this devlog, a new version of the SplineTools for Letworks. And let's go over some of the things or the new features that are going to be added to this new version, which is version 1.04. Let's start with some bad news. If you would open the Moving Platforms map and you're using Letworks Editor 4.5, well, you get a map that doesn't work. All the objects just fall to the floor. Nothing has really changed in this map, nor its the behavior or the scripts of these entities. And I'm not sure what is causing this yet, so that is something that I will have to figure out first. But that's something then for a later update, just in case you didn't know this. Okay, that was for the bad stuff. Let's go to the next feature for the SplineTools, which is a new spline type called the wire spline type. And what we can do with that is we can create these cool wires directly inside the editor. So that means we have a couple of new example maps, which you can find in the scripts, SplineTools, and then example maps folder. And when we go in there, we have two maps. The tire swing map is an experimental map, and the electric poles is the main example, which we shall open now. And what you can see here is I've created some electric poles from some CSG brushes, some really basic CSG brushes. And there's also going to be a road being laid down right next to the track. And let's run this example. And as you can see, there are wires being created between these telephone wires or electric wires, whatever you want. And that's one of the really cool things with these spline tools, is that you can create these, well, wire geometry shapes if you want. And you have the option to either choose just creating these wires, or if you press P in this example, then it's going to show you the physics. And the wires can be created with static physics, which means that if I would fly against it, it would bump me away because it has physics. And if you don't want that, you can also create them without any static physics, so you can fly through them. And I think that this example is really cool for when you're creating these kind of electric poles or power pylons that just, that are placed really differently and not any very straight line, or as you can see in this example, with some rotation applied to the actual model. Of course, you can set a texture per spline that you're creating, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you can select the amount of sides and how thick the actual wire is. So let's say if I would go into this particular scene, and if I would go to the brushes, and in this case, every pole has two wires attached to it, a wire holder right and a wire on the left. And if I select one of these nodes, let's say I'm going to select the second one, I can choose the amount of segments, which is the amount of detail for each wire. I could set that to 3 or a minimum of 2. And I could make it really thick, like, I don't know, 0.5. Not sure if that's even going to work. And the amount of sides is going to be the detail. I think I messed those terms up just a couple of seconds ago. So let's say that there are 3 sides, but there are only going to be 5 segments for this wire. And if I run this, then this looks kind of odd. You get this really low poly shape of a wire, but it looks kind of cool, and it actually creates the wire still for you. So one thing that I haven't done yet, which I will do on a later stage, is adding the actual surface for the ends of the wires. Especially when creating wires for electric poles and stuff, you don't always need that because it's often hidden inside the geometry, but I will add that later. But it was not on the top of my list just yet. Okay, and now for another cool function, and that is the tire swing map. Let's see if I have it. And in this case, I'm going to create a rope with joints between all these segments, which means that I have a dynamic swinging rope, if you will. So I'm going to start the rope from this pivot right here. And at the end of this pivot, I have this tire. So this tire truck. And as you can see, I have the editor wire script here. And of course I have to select which node is next in the wire, how many segments, the radius of the wire, how many sides it has. And then I can set this physics mode to joints. As you can see, it's experimental. And then I can anchor an end entity towards it. And that means basically that at the end of the wire, which is this pivot here, I can attach an entity. And in this case, that's going to be this tire truck. And what that does is it doesn't only create a wire that is just swinging around, but it also attaches this tire at the end of this wire. Oh, it's going to crash. That's a pity. Let's try that again. I'm having some difficulty with this wire. I don't know why that is. Perhaps it's a Letworks 4.5 issue. I'm not sure just yet. I often, when I reopen this map, it works again. Let's see if this is the case. And now it works for some magic reason. I don't know why that is. Either way, it's not perfect yet. As you can see, there's some finicking around. Could be caused by the collision type that I'm using. But anyway, you get this cool swinging rope. I see I forgot the shadow material here for the tire actually. But that is kind of cool. And if I could fix this so that it works properly, we can have some really cool interactive ropes, like ropes that you could climb on or could make a rope bridge with, which is something that I'm a big fan of. Either way, that's something that's there for the next update. And the last thing that I want to mention is, well, in case you didn't notice, updating the package from the Letworks editor to Steam doesn't work at the moment, so I'm gonna have to send out the update manually, which is kind of a pain, but let's hope that that will be fixed soon. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, always feel free to send me any messages. There are a couple of outstanding tasks at the moment. One of them is easing in and easing out. Reverse spline travel is among them, and I'm also going to look into the river editor spline. And of course, I'm going to need some help with one of the shader kings, who shall remain nameless at this point. Either way, thanks for watching, and I hope you still enjoy using SplineTools. Thanks. Bye.